So does that mean that, depending on how things go, we could get supply of some attack helicopters from US this year?
Let's see what happens. We're in discussions with your government right now.
Well,
and we don't negotiate these things in the headlines, obviously.
well, anyway, it's an election year, and
It is.
well, we're very busy, and I'm sure even friends of Nigeria here, they too will feel the pulse. Are you collaborating with the Electoral Commission or the security agencies here to ensure that we have a transparent process?
Well, we're collaborating with everybody. I think this is a tremendously exciting time in Nigeria. One thing that both of our countries have in common is we're both big, boisterous, noisy democracies, and that's a beautiful thing. So I think as you head into your democratic exercise next month, this is going to be a fascinating time. The U.S. is doing a number of things. We're providing some support to the Election Commission. We're providing support to Nigerian civil society, particularly in key areas like training up Nigerian election observers, which I think is crucial, because that's an investment not just in this election, but the next one and the next one. And also, as you've probably seen, I think I may have spoken about this the last time you had me on the air, I've been out in public talking quite a bit about the importance of nonviolence. That in democratic elections, there's no place for violence. And every time I call on a politician or a candidate in this country, I ask him or her if they will publicly take the nonviolence pledge on camera, commit themselves to not fomenting or condoning violence before, during, or after the elections. And the reaction I get is very interesting, and I'm talking about people from all parties. Frequently they say something like, well, of course, I would never initiate violence. But if the other guy starts it, or if I'm not happy with the results, then, you know, maybe and my answer to them is, I'm sorry, but that is not a no-violence pledge. A no-violence pledge means you will not participate in it or support it no matter what happens. And if you see it starting, you will do everything you can to stop it. So I've been very happy to see that Nigerian civil society, the Nigerian media, and Nigerian entertainers like Two-Face with his Vote Not Fight campaign have picked up this idea. So I hope that every time you have a candidate on the air, you'll try to get them to take the nonviolence pledge.
The vibe I'm getting here would seem that you really can't activate violence without the leaders asking their supporters
and that is why,
to go all out.
And that is why accountability, public accountability is so important, so that if violence does start, everyone knows who initiated it, and the public and the media and individual Nigerians can say, wait a minute, we know what you're up to, stop it, that's wrong. I think that's the accountability aspect of this, I think is crucial. So we will continue this theme. I went to a Two-Face concert. I'm a hip-hop guy, but just to support his,
really?
Not really, but just to support his Vote Not Fight thing, which I think is crucial. I believe in a democracy. I've observed elections all around the world, and there's just no place for violence. But the other thing I've observed in a lot of elections around the world, I think a key benchmark in democratic growth in any country is at the end of the election, when the loser comes out before the cameras and says, I'm not happy I lost, but I accept the results, I love my country, I will work with the next administration to move our country forward. When that kind of thing happens, for me, that's a hugely impressive benchmark in any country's democratic growth.
I think it was seamless if we started getting that kind of culture, because we saw that in Ekiti State in the last elections. So you say we would do well if we see more and more of such.
I think so. I think so. Accepting results and thinking about the nation rather than one's own ambitions, I think, is hugely important.
Are you really concerned? I mean, I'm sure that you must have seen the letter written by a professor in Nigeria, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. I don't know if you know him, Nigeria's former foreign minister, who wrote that letter. And he says that the threat of violence for the 2011 elections are much more greater now for the 2015 elections. Do you also share that particular concern?
I'll let him speak for himself. But if people like him, distinguished Nigerians, are concerned about violence during the 2015 elections, doesn't that make this nonviolence campaign even more important? To just be out there talking about it now and how it's unacceptable. Will we eliminate violence from these elections? I don't know. But we can make it unacceptable in the public arena so that if it happens, the people behind it are held responsible. I think that's what we all have to do together, with, frankly, the media playing the most important part of this.
What is it that you've seen? Because I know that, yes, there are so many things to improve upon. What have you seen so far about the preparations for the election that you think we should build on?
Well, I think I know Professor Jaga. We work closely together. And it's clear that INEC is on a very tight timeline. Distribution of PVCs, getting the card readers in place, ballot papers, getting them printed and distributed. He's the first to admit that it's a very tight timeline. So I think it's incumbent upon everyone to support INEC and do everything they can to help them. Then to hold them, along with political parties, to a very high standard. This is a huge job, but I think we can get it done. I know that INEC is looking at creative solutions when it comes to PVC distribution, which, as you know, is a big issue, getting everyone's PVC in hand before February 14th. So this last month will be very, very busy, very tight, but I'm optimistic. I think we're headed towards a fascinating democratic exercise.
Okay, I've got a question here from Ayola. Quite an interesting one. He
Okay,
says,
that's right. I forgot I'm being interviewed by many others.
He says, Mr. Ambassador, he likes to know if your job here, I'm trying to say, okay, maybe he wants to know, are you going to support the president or not?
Let me be clear. People ask me all the time, come on, who does the United States really support? And my answer is quite clear. The United States supports the Nigerian people in their quest for the transparent, credible, peaceful election that they want and that they deserve. We support the process rather than any outcome of the process.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I could take this next one, but he also says, this is Binga. He says, what role has the U.S. put in place to ensure free and violent-free elections, in spite of he thinks also the rocky Nigeria-U.S. relations?
Well, I wouldn't agree that our relations are rocky, but I've talked a bit already about our emphasis on nonviolence and what we are trying to do, and as I mentioned, the important role of the media, is put the violence issue out there in the public, get a debate going, get a public consensus that it's wrong and should never be accepted.
I think the last time we talked about this, perhaps maybe Onoja wasn't watching then. He would want you to comment on, well, I suppose, prediction by the United States that Nigeria may break up in 2015.
You know, I get that question all the time. Frankly, I'm tired of it. I've gone back and looked. I can't find any prediction by anyone in the U.S. government that Nigeria would break up in 2015. I think that's a ridiculous assertion. Here we are sitting in Nigeria in 2015. Do any of you see any signs of this country breaking up? I don't. I see Nigeria in a challenging time, nonetheless gradually moving forward to a very bright future, and the United States looks forward to walking with you towards that bright future, especially when I spend time with young Nigerians at universities and places like that. I can't help but have a sense of optimism about this country. So if we can take this breakup in 2015 idea and throw it out the window so nobody ever asks me that again, that would be great.
Leo likes to know, how would you rate the relationship of the U.S. with Nigeria when Clinton was the president and now?
Well, goodness, when Clinton was president, I wasn't working on Nigeria, so I can't really make a comparison. I can only focus on the relationship now, which is, as I said, I think the fundamentals are strong, and I think things are only going to get better.
So do you think that, you know, the embassy will be issuing any advisories to citizens for the period of the elections?
We always do, and it's not sort of a nefarious kind of thing. Our first responsibility as U.S. diplomats overseas is the protection and the safety of American citizens. So our guidance to American citizens will be something about be aware of what's going on around you, stay away from areas where the trouble is going on, you know, use common sense, that kind of thing. But it won't be in a scary sort of everything's going to be awful kind of sense. It will be in the sense of use good judgment, stay away from areas where there might be trouble, that kind of thing. Because as I said, that's our highest responsibility, taking care of American citizens.
So you do see that there could be trouble in some areas in spite of all the campaigns?
No, I don't see that. What I see is the need to be ready if it happens. As they say, you know, always hope for the worst, but be prepared if something happens. There's no contradiction there. So I'm quite optimistic, but you have to be ready for everything.
Okay, then. That's all we have to let it go today.
I'm sorry?
We have to thank you for coming on today. Mr. James Entwistle is U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. I'll see you again, I hope.
Right. We'll be back in just a moment. Join us again.